What's up, y'all? Welcome to Believe in Kentucky. Got Cole Parker, the Cat's Paws. My name is Vinny Hardy. Got a fresh new episode for y'all, but I kid y'all not, Cole and I were both teed up by Doug Shows right before the start of this show. And I mean, it's just no end in sight, man. We didn't do anything. We didn't even know where he was, and we both got hit with random teas. But man, other than that, man, I guess we'll get through it just like the Cats did Saturday.
Yeah, with that, I will say the ignoring Ortega's in the first half because it is what it is. That was a double T situation. I'm not going to comment on that. They both were running their mouth a little bit. It seemed like the third technical in the second half. There were four total in the game. Three in the second half, one in the first half. The third in the second half on Mark Pope, very clear cut and dry technical foul. It happens. Whether or not it should be, you can say what you want. It's a clear cut technical foul. I got no idea what the foul was on Mo Diabate. I have no clue whatsoever. As for the first one, listen, Vinny, I love the guy. Great dude. If you call it technical on Brandon Garrison, my instinct is that he probably deserves it. 9 times out of 10, I'm like, it was
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
probably fair. It was probably fair. But Mo
He stood
Diabate,
over him a little bit and gave him a little. He could have just,
yeah,
it was a little over the line. Yeah.
I didn't think that Mo should have got a T, the second one, but no, I wrote about it for the Cat's Paws. If you haven't checked out that story, be sure to check that one out whenever you're watching this episode. It's always relevant. But Mark Pope spoke about those technicals after the game, and quite frankly, my story was that he justified them, and I think I quite frankly agree too. Coming off of that loss they suffered in Nashville against Vanderbilt, Pope's sentiment was, I believe his quote, I'm reciting it from memory here. I don't have the story pulled up, a bit unprofessional of me, but something along the lines of, we could clean it up a little bit, need to be a little bit less sloppy, but I wouldn't trade the heart of it for anything. And that last part there is a quote because that stuck with me. He said, I wouldn't trade the heart of it for anything. And in that story, I read between the lines a little bit of what I thought Pope was really getting at. And coming off that Vanderbilt loss, the sentiment that I broke down is that you can clean up playing too hard. You can clean up playing a bit too loose. You can rein guys in a whole lot easier than you can coach up guys who aren't giving you effort. So what Pope was getting at to me is that I'd rather them play way too hard and we can rein them back in than to not play hard enough, because that's way harder to fix. And for a lot
Mhm.
of the first half of this season, and maybe for part of the Vanderbilt game and the aftermath of all that, the prevailing complaint was that it didn't feel like they cared. So what Pope was saying is that you can watch that Arkansas game regardless of how it had gone, and Kentucky obviously responded to adversity well. They won the game, but regardless of how it went, you could not say they did not care about that game. You could not say they did not care because they clearly did.
Yep. Absolutely. Um, and the poise, the hot start. I mean, they had 14 points 3 minutes into the game, and you flash back to Nashville. I think I looked it up. They didn't score their 14 points like 6 minutes and 30 seconds left in the half. So
Yeah.
13 and a half minutes of actual game time went by before they got 14 points. And, they were 11 to 13, just on fire, locked in. The changes or tweaks or whatever to the pregame routine, which something needs to be done. Maybe they've been in the process of trying to find something. Maybe this won't work the next time they go out tomorrow night against Oklahoma, but it worked Saturday against Arkansas. And because you can't keep digging these holes, you have to play even or get a lead or show up and have a pulse in the first half of these games.
Yeah, absolutely. And something I like that Mark Pope touched on there is he emphasized the first 4 to 6 minutes, mostly the first 4 minutes, really, but not just the first 4 minutes of the start of the game, but the start of both halves. Because basketball is a game of halves at the end of the day, and the first half and the second half are almost like two separate games. The only difference is the second half you can start in a hole or with a cushion based on what happened in the first half. Think of it like a series in baseball. You know what I mean? You can start up or you can start down, but it's kind of like a whole new game really in the second half. Um, so obviously what we've seen out of Kentucky, you need to have that hot start in the first half. You can't be getting in these massive holes. Well, I guess for Kentucky, if you're Kentucky, you can get in those big holes because they've proven they can get out of them multiple times, but you shouldn't get in those big holes over and over again to start games. However, what's arguably just as important that Pope also touched on is how you come out and start that second half, because Kentucky did have a cushion to start this, and it kind of let it slip a little bit with some of those fouls, but we know now that that was just, them playing a little bit too hard. But they didn't come out flat in the second half, and that's just as important to me, because whenever a team goes into halftime down, you can bet they're probably getting screamed at, told this, that, they're getting motivated. They're ready to come out and bounce back. They're making adjustments. They're planning on how to punch you back in the mouth the way you did in the first half. So holding on to the game is almost as important as starting the game hot. And on the flip side, for Kentucky, a big pivotal piece of all of these comebacks, and I think one of the biggest things that went wrong for them in Nashville, if you're the team that's down, punching them in the mouth early in that second half, jumping on them early. They did that in Knoxville. They did that in Baton Rouge. They did not do that in Nashville. Vanderbilt was able to kind of match them hit for hit at the start of the second half. And that, to me, is when I knew this one's over. Like, they're not coming back in this one. They did not jump on Vanderbilt the way they did Tennessee or the way they did LSU. So to that point, I love the emphasis on starting the first half better, but also starting the second half with that same intensity, or an adjusted intensity based on what the game calls for. So to that point, it was both of those things put together that really brought Kentucky this victory in Arkansas. And it's like John Calipari said post-game. He said they out-toughed us. And he also said that this was a Kentucky team that came in a little bit more desperate than Arkansas was this season. And some people can read into that a little bit with offense, but he also admitted last year, he said, my Arkansas team went into Rupp Arena more desperate than Kentucky was last year. I mean, so far in this rivalry, if you want to call it a rivalry right now, and I think it's fair to say, I mean, the fans have been going back and forth, the Calipari Derby, if you're a soccer fan, but the team that has more to lose has won every single game so far. And it's only 2 games. It's a small sample size, but it's like Calipari said, Kentucky was a bit more desperate to get the win this year, and they did. Last year, it was Arkansas that needed that kind of victory. And that, like, I think he would be one of the first to tell you that win completely changed the trajectory of Arkansas's season last year. It's like that team probably doesn't go to the Sweet 16 if they don't get that Kentucky win. That flipped a switch. And maybe Kentucky had already kind of started this this journey through the 5-game win streak before Vanderbilt, but maybe this will be part of that switch flipping for Kentucky as well.
Yeah, for sure. So had to have it. Went down there and got it. And put the title of this episode, Trent Noah and Teonni Key helped Kentucky Hawg tie Arkansas, because Otega Oweh and Claire Strack were top billing. Both teams needed to get right. Both teams needed a win. The women were struggling. We saw what happened in Nashville to the men. I was on with the legend Dick Gabriel Friday and on Big Blue Insider, and I said, basketball is typically a game of runs. In Nashville, Kentucky never really made a run of any kind, of any significance. I mean, they started a little, I think, 6-0 run in the second half, and then Vanderbilt immediately responded and squashed any hope Kentucky had. But Trent Noah gets some minutes for the first time in a while, some meaningful minutes for the first time in a while. Free throws, rebounds, hit the 3, shush the crowd, who's a docile, quiet, kind of mild-mannered kid. But then you flash back to Big Blue Madness when he shot the 3 and turned around like Steph Curry. So he's got that little swagger. It's buried within, but he flashes it every now and then. Teonni Key, I know I'm mixing in basketball, men's and women's, out for the first game back from a dislocated elbow. And double-double, and her and Claire Strack out-rebound Arkansas by themselves. So Fayetteville was the place to be if you needed to get right. For men's and women's, they put, ends to losing skids and got dubs in Bud Walton Arena. And it was a nice Big Blue weekend down there.
Yeah, absolutely. The situations feel a little different to me in the sense that Teonni Key going into this was clearly one of Kentucky's most impactful players on the women's side. Without a doubt, when they lost her, it immediately kind of felt like the team was a step below. They lost her. I forget which exact game it was. It was one of the SEC. Was it Missouri that they lost her in?
Missouri.
Clearly, they were not the team that beat LSU without her. Now they
Mm-hmm.
have her back. It feels like they can get back to that level. They kind of snapped that losing skid they were on, which I think it obviously hurts, losing. They lost to some good teams in that stretch, but it hurts losing. But I also think when it comes to resume wise, the committee does look at things like that. Them not having Teonni Key for those games, I mean, that does play a factor. For Trent Noah on the men's side, what a fascinating situation because Noah is not respectfully, and I don't think he would care if I said this, not a player who's really had much of an impact at all this season. And in most games he's played, I mean, he's struggled to kind of find his role, carve out his niche on this team. Um, Not that he hasn't done good things in games, because he absolutely has. He's had games where he's stronger than others, but not a game where it felt like he could have been the difference between a win and a loss. And in a lot of ways, that's what it felt like in Arkansas. I mean, it was more subtle because obviously, like you said, Otega with the 24, Colin Chandler with his 13, Malachi playing big. Um, Trent Noah had the same amount of rebounds as Malachi Moreno,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Trent Noah. He was a +8 in the plus minus. I mean, that was not quite double digits, but I believe the fourth highest on the entire team. And he only hit one shot all night long, but he was great on his free throws. And the
Mm-hmm.
shot he did hit, man, was it a big one with that 3-pointer. All 7 rebounds came on the defensive end of the ball.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which felt very notable, preventing those second chance opportunities for Arkansas. Pope spoke after the game. He said clearly he said the rim was 7 feet wide for him. That's all fine and well. Obviously, he had his big shot, but what was more important was he said Trent's got a great physicality about them. He was a great ball protection guy, and he was great on the glass. They talk whatever specific it is, they call it clean 15 that he brought up, and he was huge in securing those rebounds for cleaning up the glass for preventing Arkansas, a team that maybe has a bit more superstar talent on it right now. You can look at a guy like Darius Acuff, some of those players in that
Mm-hmm.
team that are more prone to take over a game than maybe some players on Kentucky's team are, preventing them from getting a chance to even get hot, preventing them from getting a chance at a better look. That the defensive rebound not only helps in limiting their points, but it also helps in limiting their momentum, keeping them on their toes, keeping them feeling more tightly wound. And that is really pivotal in what he was able to bring to Kentucky in Fayetteville.
Yeah. So different players, different situations for sure. But for him to not play much, like you said, not have a lot of impact, injured the ankle earlier. There was a game where he got subbed in, banged knees, had to go right back out. I think he was almost in and out as quick as Jalen Lowe was that one game.
Mm-hmm.
Just as soon as you're on the court, he's walking back off. And then for Teonni Key, I mean, again, different player, different situation. But first game back to be in that good of a groove, Arkansas is not top tier like LSU and Oklahoma and all that. Still, road game, been out for a while. So to come in and still be able to produce like that, as she gets back acclimated, that can only mean more and more good signs, for Kentucky. You got Vanderbilt coming up this week, and then at Texas. So the schedule, they're getting into the meaty portion of their schedule as well on the women's side.
Absolutely. I mean, big moments are made for big players, right? I mean, it says a lot. Obviously, Teonni Key is the kind of caliber of player that you get back absolutely as soon as you can. It doesn't matter if she's able to return on the road or able to return at home. When she's ready to come back, you bring her back. But I do think it says a lot about the trust that this coaching staff has in her and the kind of player they know she is, that they felt comfortable letting her loose as much as they did in this one. Because they didn't just let her play this game, they kind of let her play her game in this one. And she's that kind of player, that big time player who can go on the road in an SEC environment. Like you said, maybe not the top tier of the SEC, but we're talking about the SEC here. So an SEC program nonetheless who can go on the road and respond the way she did. I mean, that absolute dog, Teonni Key, that she is one of the catalysts and one of the keys to a lot of the success the women have had this season. And like I said, when she was off the floor, they clearly looked like, not that they were a bad team, I'm not saying that, but they looked clearly a step down. They didn't look like the national championship caliber team that they looked like when they beat LSU. I'm not saying that they will win it, but they looked like they could be capable of being, a team that you could realistically see in the Final Four after that LSU game. Clearly, they weren't that without her, but now they have her back. I'm very excited to see where that goes, and she is a massive player and a massive piece of that team.
For sure. As always, we're coming to y'all courtesy of the Believe Network. We're live on YouTube and Facebook. Follow, subscribe at Believe in Kentucky. Follow Cole at Cole Park underscore WSC. Follow me at Vinny Hardy. Um, we have Oklahoma coming in Wednesday night, 9 o'clock. This will be round three, if you will. We saw Otega Owe at Norman. We saw Otega Owe at a neutral court. Will it take superhuman Otega Owe dagger to beat Oklahoma tomorrow, or will Kentucky win in less dramatic fashion? And of course, option C, will they fool around and let their guard down and drop this game? We don't even want to think about option C, but will it be a dagger or will they win comfortably compared to what they usually do against Oklahoma?
Well, Vinny, let's keep it a buck. The answer is God only knows, right? I have no idea whatsoever. But no, seriously, I do think that this game, whether you want to admit it or not, is a very pivotal game for Kentucky. I said this on radio with the Big Blue Insider on Monday, I guess yesterday. To me, this game might even be more important than the Arkansas game, not in the sense that it's tougher, but because it's not. It's easier to answer the call of duty against Arkansas. It's easier to get riled up for your team's former coach, especially with returning players in the team that lost to Calipari in their home venue last year. It's easier to get motivated in your first game after that Vanderbilt game when you're seeing what all the fans are saying about you, how badly the fans want to beat Calipari. You got bulletin board material for days. Oklahoma, let's call it what it is. They're not a bad basketball team, but by SEC standards, they are on the bottom rung. All right, they're not quite LSU right now without Dayton Thomas. They're not even quite South Carolina, but they're on that bottom tier. It is not going well for Porter Moser, formerly of Loyola Chicago fame, but not going well for Porter Moser. I mean, this is a guy that had to follow a legend of that program in Lon Kruger. That's a tough gig to follow, but since he's taken over, he's never really quite felt like he's been able to get Oklahoma back to some of the highs they had before. Not that Oklahoma is this eternally elite team, but they've had a lot of success in their history. They've done some big things in their history, and it hasn't really felt like he's been able to get them back where they want to be. In a lot of ways, since they've joined the SEC, they've kind of just respectfully felt like one of the teams that's there. They've never really felt like that top dog. And right now, they're back at it again. Right now, if you look at the KenPom rankings, they're ranked 66. They're projected out of the NCAA tournament. They're a rank below Grand Canyon University. They're actually ranked lower in KenPom than Ole Miss is right now, which is a rough look for Oklahoma. They don't have those elite wins so far this season. So to that point, this game is huge for Kentucky because, like I just said, it's a whole lot easier to answer the call of duty when the spotlight is on you. It is a lot harder to stay as motivated, to have that fast start, to respond in the second half, to play the brand of basketball Kentucky needs to play when maybe it's a team you like you should beat. Maybe it's a team you feel like should be one of the, again, as respectful as I can say it, one of the easier games left on the schedule because from this point forward, it's all SEC. So one of the easier games left on the schedule and at home. How does Kentucky respond to that? Do we see the same Kentucky we saw in Fayetteville? Do we see them start as hot, as quick, as fast, as intense as they did in Fayetteville? Whether or not they do or not, that's going to say a lot about what this team is capable of because not that I'm invoking some old curse, but that was always one of Calipari's biggest weaknesses. And that's what ultimately got him out of Lexington in the end of the day is that his players and his team didn't seem to just rise to the occasion when it felt like it was a clear shot, easy victory. The 2 first-round upsets against St. Peter's, against Oakland. Let's not forget they lost to UNC Wilmington on their home floor. They lost to Evansville. Like, these losses didn't just come because those teams were better. In fact, all of them weren't. They straight up weren't. All of those losses came because Kentucky seemed ill-prepared, not ready, just overconfident and lazy and didn't answer. By the time they did finally wake up and realize, oh crap, this team might beat us, it was too late. The other team was already fired up enough. So can Kentucky come out? Not that Oklahoma is on the same tier as some of these mid to low majors, but they're the SEC equivalent right now, as politely as I can say that. It's the SEC. Every team is good. Every team is a tournament capable team. It's just some are going to be the bottom rung right now. can they respond and can they handle this adversity as well as they do against the big dogs? Because you got to be able to do both. You got to be able to come out ready to play the big dogs, but you got to be out. You got to come out and take care of business against the teams that are struggling in their conference as well.
And you mentioned Ole Miss, and that's the only conference win Oklahoma has. They opened this conference play, beat Ole Miss by 16 at home, and then they've lost the next 8 conference games. Now, to your point, you can't just show up and beat them. This Kentucky team should know they're not good enough to just show up and beat anybody. On the flip side, Otega Owe and Brandon Garrison, you think if the team is sluggish, those guys are going to have everybody ready to play just for their personal vendettas against Oklahoma alone. They should have everybody amped up because as bad as it's going, Oklahoma went to College Station and only lost by 7. They lost at home to Bama by 2, lost on the road at Missouri by 1, lost at home to Cal and Arkansas by 4. So they've been in some games. They could, instead of 1-8, it could easily be 5-4. But somebody got to lose those games, like we talked about last week, and they're the team that's losing these games. But that still doesn't mean Kentucky can just roll out of bed and just we got this. They are not that good.
Absolutely. And that, to that point, that's what made the SEC a 14 bid league last year. And that's what makes it not that this year, because some of the stock isn't there with some of the non-conference stuff. Anyone in this conference can beat anybody. Even South Carolina, even LSU, those teams can pick off somebody. They're in these games. Oklahoma's been in all these games. I mean, granted, they do have some bad losses on the resume. Arizona State, that might not jump off the page as a bad loss, but that's an Arizona State team that, again, if we're keeping it a buck, probably has a new head coach next year. Just has not gone very well for Bobby Hurley down there. It's just not been trending the right direction. So Ken Pom projects them to win. If you look at Oklahoma, you got the payment plan that I have going on here for my guy, Ken Pomeroy. If you look at their projections, what the metrics say, this is an Oklahoma team that is projected to win one more game this year at home against Missouri on March 3rd to end the season 14-17, 4-14 in the league. They've lost 8 straight games in the conference, but like you said, many of those losses, they were right there in it. They're right there in it. So you also have to think about the fact, who comes to town this weekend, Vinny? Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee Volunteers team that Kentucky went down and beat, yes, but a Tennessee team that is coming back looking for revenge. You got the Denham game, you got all that. This feels like the marquee trap game right here. The Oklahoma, that is the trap game. Coming off the high of a big win, right before a big opponent, right before a special game this weekend. This is a trap game. How does Kentucky handle it? Because Oklahoma is not, like you said, as nicely as we can say it, this Kentucky team is not good enough to beat anybody on the schedule left by just showing up. They're not. All right. And I think they know that. And I'm hopeful that, like you said, Otega Owe, Brandon Garrison, the Oklahoma, whether Otega Owe played for Oklahoma before, Brandon Garrison from Oklahoma City, both of those guys have those personal connections to Oklahoma. Obviously, they're in Norman. That's basically a suburb of OKC, if you don't know your geography, for anyone watching. That they're basically right side by side. So Brandon Garrison grew up in Oklahoma country, Sooner country. Both of those guys have those personal vendettas, and both of those guys have shown last year, both in Otega Owe with the game winners, Brandon Garrison, and some of the jabber jawing and the all of that. Both of those guys have shown this game means something to them. So that is a big benefit for Kentucky. They have those guys with the personal connections who can hopefully get the team fired up and ready to play. But we'll see. And I think that this game is a really pivotal one for Kentucky because not only is it one that they need to win, it's one that looks rough if you don't. It's a rough loss and it's not necessarily a seed line bump loss or anything like that, but it's not a great loss. It's one that Kentucky is projected to win by KenPom by 81%. This is a Kentucky team that at one point was projected to finish like 500 on the season. Now KenPom is projecting them to finish 19-12 on the year. I still think they finish a little bit better than that personally, but I think if they lose this one, that goes down. So, they need to respond to this one. They need to handle business here. They need to beat Oklahoma. and they have the players to do so. They have the players that care enough to do so. The question is now, will the rest of the team show up around them?
Yeah, the whole consistency thing. It's been real elusive. So yeah. So that would require putting two complete games together, uh, two first halves together, and then that's how you got to stack stuff. You gotta have one and then another. That's what a that's what a stack is. I mean, it's real elementary, but it's what we're wanting to see this team do, and this team is trying to figure out how to do.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but the team that scores more points usually wins the game. So you have to score more points than your opponent and play better than your opponent to win basketball games. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah,
I think if
man.
everyone knew that, it'd be a lot better. But we'll
Dropping
see.
knowledge, Cole.
That's what they pay me for. So they pay me the big bucks for.
Absolutely, absolutely. So flipping to football, because and we got baseball and softball. Coach Menz and Coach Lawson are talking and getting ready. Coach Stein, I'm sure everybody has saw him on the podcast with Andy Staples and I think Ari Wasserman, and just I think I said something again, Big Blue Insider, when we talked a little bit about football. The whole fearlessly trying to take it to the next level at Kentucky. And we saw some things with Stoops. Saw 10-win seasons for the first time in my life. I'd never seen that happen before. Saw Kentucky start to beat Michigan for players or, bigger name schools. Whoa, hadn't seen that before. And now, like, Will Stein is coming in and taking that and running with it. We're going to recruit anywhere. We're going to go everywhere. We're going to do whatever we can. He referenced the fact that they've already been good on defense. And look, I watched them with Will Levis in 2021, and when Liam was here, and just the whole taking it up a notch, the whole ramping everything up, and the we can win now. We're a destination job. We shouldn't have an inferiority complex due to our history. All of that, it has to be good for everybody to hear.
Yeah, no doubt. And I liked what he talked about with that Ole Miss game because it was a sentiment that I felt very heavily at the time as well. Kentucky was a top 10 team going into Ole Miss that year with Will Levis. And obviously, we know how that season ended. It went downhill from there, but I think a lot of it went downhill because of that game. They scored the game-winning touchdown. It just got taken back for a flag, and then they turned it over. But Kentucky beat Ole Miss until it didn't. And if they win that game, I wonder what the trajectory of that season looks like after that. But regardless, kind of like he was saying, you hear it all the time, but I don't feel like enough people internalize it. Why not Kentucky? Why? Like, there's a reason when you look at all of these hypothetical, and I kind of hate the hypothetical because each team is unique, but when you hear all these hypotheticals about who could be the next Indiana, there's a reason why Kentucky is consistently in the top of that conversation. Even if Kentucky is historically a basketball school, fans care about football. It is an SEC school. You got the wins right there on your schedule. We can look at the schedule. They're tough, but if you build a team, you got the wins right there to go to the playoffs. All you need. You don't even have to win the conference. You can go to the playoffs. You have annual matchups, especially with the new scheduling format where you're going to face pretty much every team in the conference either this year or next year at the home and away over 4 years. So you're going to face your Bamas, your Georgias, your Texas A&Ms, your Texases, your Oklahomas annually, pretty much. LSU, throw out whoever you want. These opportunities are there. You can get kids to this school if the money is there, like they keep saying it is. And Stein has repeatedly emphasized that money is not going to be the first thing they bring up, which I still think, even in the modern era, is a good thing. The money is there to get these players. You can say what you want to with the JMI thing. I don't feel like getting into it. Just purely run with me on this. If the money is there, why can Kentucky not be successful? There's no fundamental reason it can't. There's no fundamental reason why you have to sell yourself so short and just act as though there's this glass ceiling on top of you. Glass ceilings are meant to be broken, Benny. You break through that ceiling, you win a few years. All it takes is a few good seasons, and then following that up with more good seasons, which is where The previous regime fell a little bit short. They had the first step. They just couldn't really follow up on it. But I'm writing about it in this piece I'm doing on the baseball team this year, and we'll get to baseball a little before we get out of this episode. But when you win games, you get better recruits. When you get better recruits, you get better players over time, and you win more games. When you have success, it has the capability, if you play your cards right, if you handle things correctly, to elevate the entire program. So to that point, if you can just have a good season, have an explosive offense, have a fun offense, offensive players are going to want to come here. It's the SEC. How many times, even last season, did we talk to players that transferred in from the Big 12, the MAC, anywhere, and you asked them and they said, it's the SEC. It's where I wanted to play. I wanted to be here because of the challenge, because everyone wants to be an SEC football player if you're a football player. It's where the best play. And you can say what you want to about the Big Ten, the ACC tournament results, college football playoff results. The sentiment still exists that the SEC is where the best play football. So to that point, why not Kentucky? Why sell yourself short, and why not shoot for the stars? I like it a lot. I think that that's exactly the kind of mindset any coach coming into Kentucky needs to have in any sport. There's zero reason why this school can't compete. And going all the way back to when I was a freshman or sophomore at UK, the first story I ever won an award for was a column I wrote when the whole basketball football school debate was going on and the whole Stoops Cal argument happened. Ironically, both those guys are gone now. But my point in that column was, why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't it be both? Florida won a national title in both sports in the same year. Why should Kentucky, an SEC institution that has had, whether you want to say it's a basketball school or not, that has a history of success on both sides, like on both teams? Kentucky claims a national championship in 1950. They didn't win the national title in 1950, but they claim one. They won the Cotton Bowl, okay? They had Bear Bryant before Alabama did.
Yeah.
So they had that streak of 8 straight bowl games. Why would you sell yourself short of anything other than we should be the best in every sport across the board? Is that realistic? Probably not. But that should be what you strive for. That should be the goal. Why wouldn't it be? You know? So to that point, I love that mindset from Will Stein. I love that passion and that kind of thought process, because that's how I've always felt about it. And that's how I've always felt about, quite frankly, there are schools that genuinely have issues that would prevent them from being elite in something or the other. But for most of these big schools, it's the approach Texas takes. You think Texas is over here? Texas has one of the best volleyball teams in the country, a phenomenal football program. Men's basketball exists. Other teams in that school that are very successful. Why not try to compete in everything? There's no reason not to, you know? So,
and they're trying. They hired Sean Miller. They're trying to get.
Yeah, they're trying.
You know, so
they're getting there.
We'll see what he does. And they had Chris Beard before that, but
didn't quite go the best. But
so
they had Shaka. Shaka Smart was a good hire at the time too. It just didn't quite work out there. But they've been making efforts to hire good coaches. I mean, I felt like the Rodney Terry hire. Rodney Terry's a great man, but also that was one of those hires you see that happen a lot where interim coach has success. You kind of got to give him a shot. You got to let him run with it. And it didn't end up working out, but they've been making good hires. There is genuinely, an interest in competing. I believe their women's basketball team is also pretty sturdy up there, winning a lot of big games. They're pretty good. So forgive me if that's like a sin on my part. I don't know the most about Texas women's basketball. I will be honest. If they're like a really, really good program, then that's a bit embarrassing on my part. But
they got some history. I watched the SEC.
I feel like they are really. I feel like now that the more I'm thinking about it, I think they're really good, actually.
Yeah,
they might be number 4 in the country right now, Vinny. They might be number 4 in the country right now. They might have a national title as a program. So
they do. They definitely do. They definitely.
My fault, Texas. That's on me.
Do.
That's on me.
They are. Let's see. They are. Wait a minute. 6-2 in the.
Yeah, they're ranked number 4.
Right? Yeah. That's 21-2. 21-2. 6-2 in the league. The ladies name's escaping me. That she was kind of ground floor, built the tradition, uh, a la Pat Summit. I can't think of her
They have
name.
Vic Schaefer. Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
from Mississippi State. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, interesting. Yeah, no,
Uh-huh.
that's on me. I haven't actually been a women's basketball beat reporter since Ryan Howard was at Kentucky, so that's on
Okay.
me. But um, no, but the point stands even more now, Minnie. That just made my point even more for me. Why not try to compete in every sport? Kentucky, I've always thought Kentucky should adopt that mindset, and I love hearing it from Will Stein.
Yeah, absolutely. So the excitement is there. Um, the commitments, the spring game. Looking forward to all of that, and it'll be fall before we know it, and be that first game before we know it. So looking forward to it. In the meantime, we'll round out basketball and then have baseball and softball going, and that'll carry us as far as it will into the spring, early summer. Expectations are a little bit higher for baseball now, and they should have some players to maybe live up to it with as far as the returners go on that roster.
Absolutely. I spoke with Nick Mingione a lot today. I was just messaging Matt May a little bit back and forth there. That's the Kentucky Baseball SID. Um,
Good people.
Batcat's got some dudes this year, you know? Also Matt May, formerly of Cat's Paws. Uh,
Absolutely, yeah, yeah,
so little full circle moment there. But
yeah.
nonetheless, no, that's a very good team, and to the point I was just making about the football team, that's kind of why it was fresh in my mind. You win some games, you find some success, and the program as a whole elevates. Nick Mingione made that point. I mean, this is a Kentucky baseball team that had never been to Omaha, had never been to a College World Series, had never stepped foot, probably, I'm not going to fact check it, but have not stepped foot on Charles Schwab Field before
Mhm.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Not only have they done that now, they've won a game there. They've been to 3 straight NCAA tournaments, going to the super regionals in 2 of those years, and were felt like just right on the cusp of going again last year before they got knocked out in the Clemson regional by, I think that was West Virginia. Um,
Yep.
hate those Mountaineers, but
Mhm.
nonetheless, this is a very good program. And you had Ryan Waldschmidt, who asterisk on first round draft pick last year. I think he was in the supplemental picks, but still count it. First round draft pick last year. Going into this season, boy, oh boy, Vinny, do they have a stud in Tyler Bell. D1 Baseball has him as a preseason third team All American. He's in the top 5 shortstops in the country preseason. And Bleacher Report just put out, I'm not trying to spoil my entire article I'm about to release, but Bleacher Report just put out a mock draft, has him going number 13 overall to the Cleveland Guardians. So, Guardians fans, rise up. Not me, but rise up. You know, we like the Red Sox and the Red Sox only around here, even if we decided to be cheap for no reason. Nonetheless, they've got some guys this year, and they've got expectations this year. Going into the season, they're ranked number 18 by D1 Baseball in the preseason top 25. This is a team that feels like can host a regional again. Feels like it's a team that could go to a super regional again, maybe even host a super regional again. God forbid, go back to Omaha again. Obviously, there's going to be some changes. No longer have Devin Burks under, excuse me, no longer have Devin Burks as the catcher. Instead, they've got 3 of them. 3 guys they're going to be rotating that can all do different things, including a highly touted freshman from right here in Lexington Catholic's Owen Jenkins. You've got some great incoming transfers from all over the country. Elon, St. Bonaventure, Indiana. And, if you don't know baseball, you're like, well, some of those are small schools. Who cares? The guys that are coming from some of these schools are studs. All right, Vinny, they are studs. And not to mention, you're getting excited about next year. Apparently, Mingione revealed to us today that I believe Will Stein and Nick Mingione have worked out a deal to let Ponatoski play both football and baseball at the University of Kentucky, which we all thought was going to be the goal. Clearly, that has been worked out between the coaches. If that can happen, that's very exciting. But all in all, I mean, you bring back Ben Cleaver, the Slim Reaper, who, as he said, he told us today that he did not play any summer league ball. He wanted to work on building some muscle, building his body. He said his glove no longer says Slim Reaper. I believe his exact quote was, "It just says Reaper, so take that for what you will." Um, but a lot of great players. There's going to be position battles. I put out a story today about some of those position battles. More stories are to come on baseball. I'm working on one right now on the Tyler Bell and one on the pitching. But all the same, this is a Kentucky team's going to have position battles, not because they don't necessarily have one clear guy, but because they have so much depth and so much talent. We said we got 3 catchers. You're going to see multiple guys competing for that third base spot with Ethan Hindle coming back from injury. Plus, you got Cerny coming from, I believe, Indiana as a big transfer. You got some outfield guys that can play. And then the pitching. This is a Kentucky team that last year was a bit frustrating coming out of Omaha. And that also can happen. You have such a successful season where you go to Omaha, you get absolutely rated by the MLB draft. You get absolutely rated by talent leaving. It was a veteran-led group. They returned 1 start, I believe, last year. 1 player who had started a game last season. This year, they have, I believe it was, I tweeted it out. Let me pull this up real quick. I'll try to be efficient in doing so. Yeah, right here. Mingione said, he said, "I sat here last year and we returned 1 start on the mound. This year, we returned 29 starts with 142 SEC starting pitching innings. This is a group that has done it before. And even with that, last year felt so frustrating. It felt like such a frustrating, it's just the best word to use, frustrating team that was clearly a step down. And they still almost went to the Supers, Vinny. They still went to the NCAA tournament and won multiple games there. So to that point, they've had guys who have not only done it, but done it at a high enough level to go to the tournament and have done it at a high enough level to win games in the tournament. And now you add in a bunch of other transfer talent, a phenomenal transfer class for Kentucky baseball. You add in a projected first-round MLB draft pick. You add in all of the guys they have, the coaching staff that's proven that they can get this done. It should be a very exciting season for Kentucky baseball. And I, for one, am excited to get back out there. When I was a student, I kind of had other people that wanted to cover that. I focused mostly on men's basketball at the Kentucky Colonel. I did not do as much baseball since my sophomore year, my freshman year. So I'm very excited to get back to KPP this season for the Cat's Paws. Had the opportunity to cover some more Kentucky baseball. I think it's going to be a fun year, and I'm very excited to see where they go.
Yeah, it's definitely so exciting times all around. That whole thing we had Coach Trevor Fitz on here the year before last, or maybe after the. But the question basically was, they got to the regionals, lost LSU, and the question was, can you stack 2 good years together? Well, clearly they can, and so that's in the rearview mirror, and they're on the bigger and better things, and that's part of the process. And credit to them for assembling the talent, the experience, the mix of all of that, and now it's just getting that chemistry and that rhythm once the season starts.
Yeah, to that point about stacking seasons, I think it says a lot that last year was a very frustrating season for Kentucky baseball, and there was still a year that they were right on the cusp of going back to the Supers. We talk about elevating a program, we talk about lifting the entire stock of a team. Before, even early on in Mingione's tenure, I know they went to the Supers his first season there, but even for a while in his tenure, a frustrating season for Kentucky baseball was a losing record or not going to the tournament. Now, a frustrating season for Kentucky baseball is almost going to the Supers. Like, that's where we're at now with Kentucky baseball. They didn't just stack good seasons. It's almost like they've changed the entire mindset around their program. I mean, a point Mingione made today, they in recent years, I don't actually exactly know how many years he was tracking back. It could just be like the last few, but in recent years, Kentucky has as many, right around the same tier in terms of amount of postseason wins as Tennessee, LSU, Florida. Those are 3 programs that have won a national title in the last 10 years, Vinny. So we're talking about a Kentucky that, even if it's never really crossed that threshold yet, even if it's only been to Omaha once as we sit here now, in the last 3 years at least, has been on par with national championship winning programs and recent national championship winning programs. We're not talking about a title from 1977. We're talking about a title from 2017 at latest. We're talking about a title from 2024. Like, these are teams that have won it recently. And Kentucky, in the last 3 years, is hitting right there with them. and they have an identity. And I say this in a complimentary way, they're an annoying team to play. They're so annoying to play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what makes them so special. But this is a team that feels like the epitome of raising the value of a program by stacking those winning seasons. Like we've reiterated over and over and over again on this show, it feels like this episode, stacking 1 or 2 good seasons and then building upon that. Now you look at Kentucky baseball that went from a program that was like, well, I hope they go to the tournament this year to they should go to the supers this year.
Yeah. So a wonderful transformation, and it's still ongoing. So credit to Coach Minge and the staff for everybody and all that they're doing, and looking forward to watching it. It's a week and a half away, and they'll be out on the diamond doing their thing. So
at UNC Greensboro, we love our RPI merchants. We love our RPI merchants. It really is a genius strategy. If you just play on the road for all your first easy going games, not all of them, but for a lot, if you play on the road for a lot of these easy series to start the season, not only do the wins have more value to them, if you do happen to get picked off in one of those games, it does not hurt you near as much because it's a true road game. We love being computer trickers around these parts. If the computer thinks it's so smart, lie to it.
Yeah,
that's all you gotta do. That's all you gotta do.
That, and the weather nudged you to go on the road down south.
Softball starts their entire season with those like Florida tournaments, Texas tournaments. That's all they do for the first month or so. They're not even stepping foot in John Croft Stadium for a while.
We're the northernmost. What we have to do with the northernmost SEC team. It's just part of life up here.
Yeah.
We're not in Gainesville year round. We can't, just doing what we got to do up here.
Absolutely. I'll take a trip to San Marcos, Texas right now. Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the score prediction for your Super Bowl, man? Got to get that on the record before we hop off here.
13-3.
Okay. Lead into it.
I gotta run with what's worked. I gotta make this my thing for the next week or so. 13-3. Patriots win a league record 7th Super Bowl.
Wow. Unbelievable.
I think 6th of my life, but 7th total.
Wow. So you weren't born for Brady's first one.
Against
the Rams.
2002? No, sir. I was not alive in 2002. 2001, I was not alive. That was the 2001 season. It took place in 2002. Was not alive for that. The 2023 season with the 2024 Super Bowl, I would have been a wee little baby, but I would have been alive for that one. So maybe 6th of my lifetime, 7th total, passing those dodgy, crappy, ugly Steelers. Get them out of here. Tired of sharing the top with that bum yellow and black. Get them out of here.
So you got your place that you're going to watch it, where you're going to be. So when it's your team, it's not worried about the commercials, and it's not worried about, it's. So
yeah, maybe this is going to sound pretentious of me, but I've seen a lot of Super Bowls in my time, and I never quite got the whole Super Bowl commercial craze. It never mattered to me. I never really cared about the commercials. I was worried about other things. So, we'll see. I'm sure there'll be some great commercials. I'm sure I won't care about them very much, but we'll see. If it's anything like that Denver game, though, I'm going to be on the edge of my seat the whole time.
That's it. So we'll step back next week and see what the aftermath is.
One last thing. 13-3 final. Seahawks throw an interception on the goal line again.
Really leading into it. Look at you really leading
Insult
into
to injury. Insult to injury.
There you have it.
I want them to cut to the stands, and Pete Carroll is sitting in the stands for some reason, smacking his gum.
You got a Hollywood movie director, script writer.
I'll write the book.
Role in your future. Yeah.
New England Patriots, if you're out there, I'll write the book. I said if they're out there. Like, if you're listening, I guess it'd be better. They're out there for sure.
Bob Kraft and Mike Vrabel. So they'll be knocking at your door, giving you a call, man. So there you go.
I'll do it.
Appreciate everybody tuning in that will listen or watch this, subscribe, rate, review. Take the time, give us a little 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Tell your friends, tell your family. You know, somebody that would like this podcast, like to keep up with all things UK. Just jump on here and tune in every episode. Go back and listen to the ones in the past. Got plenty coming up in the future. Look, it's the denim game this weekend. We're not trying to overlook Oklahoma, but Tony Doak and myself, there's an episode in the archives. We talked the denims, we talked the Converse, we talked Mr. Wildcat, the great manager, equipment manager Bill Kitely's. All that is on there. He played for the 96 team, won the championships, wore the denim. So we were talking about it. I had to ask him about all that stuff. So go back and find that if you want to. Check it out when y'all have time. Go Cats. Great wins over Arkansas. Beat Oklahoma tomorrow. The ladies take care of Vanderbilt Thursday. It's baseball time. It's softball time. Men's, women's golf, tennis, all that is going as well. All Cats, everything. Go. Hope you enjoy the Super Bowl. I can't root for the Patriots, but I hope you enjoy the Super Bowl. And we'll talk about all that next time here on Believe in Kentucky. For Cole Park, my name is Vinny Hardy. See y'all next time on Believe Network. Go Cats.